The shocking truth about Genesis, divine secrets revealed at 3 a.m. that will haunt you forever. The clock struck 3. An eerie chill swept through the dimly lit room, sending shivers down Jake's spine. What he was about to uncover would shake the very pillars of humanity's understanding, twisting his perception of reality forever. Rumors had circulated for centuries about hidden truths buried deep within the ancient text of Genesis. But no one, not even the bravest scholars, had dared to uncover those secrets. Until now. With every flicker of the candle, shadows danced, revealing a gold-etched Bible that glimmered ominously on the table. The book was covered in dust, its spine cracked, as if it had been waiting years for someone brave enough to open it. The air hummed as Jake reached for it, his heart racing. He could almost hear whispers, prayers, curses, the cries of the forgotten. His hands trembled as he pulled it closer, the pages falling open to reveal an ancient language, half-formed visions etching themselves in his mind that he wasn't prepared for the illustrations that followed. Serpents coiled around the verdant branches, celestial beings unfurling enormous wings against a backdrop of unfathomable darkness. Each illustration was more perplexing than the last, suggesting stories that veered from the sanitized lessons of Sunday school. This was no ordinary religious text. This was a portal into the madness of a narrative that teetered on the edge of calamity. Jake's breath hitched in his throat. As he tried to decipher the strange writings, a guttural sound emanated from the shadows. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. His instincts screamed that he was being watched. Eyes, unseen and piercing, bore into him, filling the very room with an oppressive weight. He tore his gaze from the pages, looking toward the corner of the room, where darkness seemed to pulse and flicker like a dying candle. "Don't be a coward," he told himself, but doubt gnawed at his resolve. In that suffocating silence, he heard it again, a guttural, throaty growl. Something was lurking in the dark, feeding off his fear. And there he was, caught between curiosity and sheer terror, with the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and mystery. Each second felt like an eternity, the stillness suffocating yet electrifying. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With his courage summoned, Jake turned back to the book, determined to face whatever darkness had entwined itself with the truth. But just as he found his momentum, a thundering bang echoed from the other room, shaking the very foundation beneath his feet. The candle flickered violently, casting wild shadows, and the book slammed shut as though it had a will of its own. Panic surged through him. Had he awakened something monstrous? The silence that followed was deafening. He stood frozen, heart pounding as a sense of unraveling dread clawed at his insides. Was he still alone? Or had he opened a door that should have remained forever locked? An overwhelming urge surged within him. He had to know what lurked beyond the pages, and he had to find out before it was too late. The air thickened, each breath turning into a struggle against the unseen. Jake's heart raced like a drum, the echo ringing in his ears. He took a hesitant step forward, eyes scanning the room for any sign of movement. The shadows writhed as if they were alive, morphing into grotesque figures that threatened to swallow him whole. With shaky hands, he lifted the Bible, its cover cold and the texture rough against his palm. As he opened it again, the air shifted. A slight breeze stirred, a whispering chill that made him want to recoil. The pages turned slowly, almost methodically, as though urging him deeper into the darkness. Riddles formed from the ink, spiraling from the ancient symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Questions tumbled through his mind. What had he awakened? What truths had he stumbled upon? Suddenly, a shadow darted across the corner of his vision. He spun, heart racing, but it was gone. Just the darkness, mocking him with its malevolence. The growls intensified, reverberating through the walls like a battle cry. It was then that he caught sight of something more tangible, a flicker of movement, a silhouette lurking just beyond the edge of the dim light. "Who's there?" Jake called out, his voice cracking under the strain of fear. Silence answered, thick and suffocating. Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged. A woman, her features obscured by darkness, her eyes glinting like shards of glass in the flickering candlelight. "You shouldn't have opened that book," she hissed, her voice a crooked whisper. Jake stumbled back, the Bible slipping from his grip and crashing to the floor. "What are you? What do you know about it?" The words tumbled out in a rush. "I know more than you can comprehend. The secrets inside are not for the faint-hearted." She took a step closer, shadows clinging to her like a second skin. "You're not ready for what lies within these pages. They're not just stories, they're warnings." His pulse thundered. "Warnings about what?" She leaned in, the air growing colder as her breath ghosted across his face. "About what comes when the truth is revealed. The very fabric of reality unraveled by curiosity." Jake's thoughts spiraled in disbelief. It felt like a nightmare, a surreal encounter that should never have been possible. "I have to understand. I need to know." Her laughter was dark and unsettling, echoing through the room. "Knowledge comes at a price, Jake." She stepped back, blending into the shadows, "and sometimes, the price is your sanity." The candle flickered out, plunging him into darkness. Panic surged anew as he fumbled for the lighter in his pocket, his fingers trembling. The growls crescendoed, filling the void with tormenting sounds that clawed at his mind. He struck the lighter, the tiny flame illuminating his surroundings only for an instant before it flickered and threatened to go out. There, in that fleeting glow, he saw it, a figure looming in the darkest corner, eyes locked onto him, a grotesque smile stretching across its face, jagged teeth glistening with malice. The candle died, plunging him back into oppressive darkness. The growls morphed into savage laughter, echoing around him. Jake realized with dawning horror that the knowledge he sought was buried under layers of dread that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. He had to act. Then, he remembered the illustrations, the serpents and celestial beings. There had to be a way to fight back, a way to turn the truth against whatever hunted him. But he had to summon the courage for one more glance at the book. As he made a dash toward where he left it, a cold wind whipped through the room, carrying with it the scent of decay. The shadows closed in, thickening around him, each whisper a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond comprehension. He fell to his knees, his hands brushing against the book's cover. Would he emerge victorious, or would he become just another secret lost to the abyss? Just then, the shadows clutched at him, a suffocating grip tightening around his throat. He had to know the truth, even if it meant risking everything. The moment Jake's fingers grazed the Bible's cover, a surge of energy coursed through him, almost like an electric shock. It lit a fire in the pit of his stomach, compelling him to wrestle with the darkness drenching the room. All around him, twisted shadows seemed to gather, whispering secrets unbearable to hear. Panic clawed at his throat as he wrestled the book up into his lap, glaring into the dark corners, desperate for some sign of existence other than his own. The mere thought of what lay within its pages paralyzed him with fear. He had to know. He felt like a moth drawn toward the flame, aware of the danger yet entranced by the pull of forbidden knowledge. He steadied his breath, flicked the lighter again. The flame flickered to life, illuminating the battered pages before him. Each word seemed to glower, the ink itself seeming alive as it absorbed the last remnants of light. Jake forced his eyes over the words, searching for anything that might guide him. Fallen ones who hunger for the truth and skin of the innocent. It was written in a jagged hand, spiraling down the page in what felt like a taunt. His heart raced even faster as he read aloud, his voice a mere tremor in the oppressive silence. And with each syllable, the world around him seemed to shrink, a vortex pulling him closer to the very edge of reality. Was he awakening something even more malicious? Suddenly, the figures lurking in the shadows shifted. A cold laugh sliced through the darkness, a familiar sound that echoed from the woman who warned him. "You should have listened, Jake," her voice rang. The shadows around him morphed, branching and contorting into shapes that seemed to reach for him, yearning to pull him into their abyss. "No." He slammed the Bible shut, but the shadows kept advancing, swirling like a storm. They tugged at his shirt, his limbs, weighty and relentless. "I can't go. I want to let you take me." The room spun as he heaved himself toward the workbench in search of a flashlight he might have overlooked. Stumbling, he knocked over several tools, the clattering noise a sad protest against the chaos that had enveloped him. In a split second, the shadows recoiled as the beam of light split the darkness, blazing across the room. The grotesque figures melted back, the laughter dissolving into quiet dread, but the woman, those cold, glinting eyes did not flinch. "You think you can ward off the truth with mere light?" she echoed, a sinister glee evident in her tone. Jake felt his breath catch. "What do you want from me?" The question burrowed deeper as he raised the flashlight like a shield, feeling the cold sweat prickling on his brow. "There is a prophecy." She drew closer again, weaving through beams of light like a slithering serpent. "A choice to be made. Sacrifice or salvation. In your quest for truth, you must decide, what are you willing to forfeit?" His responsibility weighed heavy on him. "I won't forsake anyone," Jake yelled, desperation lacing his voice. But the reality gnawed at him. All those illustrations, those ominous warnings, what if he was merely playing into their hands? The shadows writhed and twisted again, seemingly reflecting Jake's own inner turmoil. He felt the room pulse, as if it were breathing in sync with his fear. And just as he felt the walls closing in, he heard a different sound, a faint whisper, almost pleading. "Help us." It was barely audible, but Jake felt it seize his heart. Was it a trick? Or was there truly something trapped within the confines of the shadows, lost and desperate for freedom just like him? He took a step back, trembling with anticipation. Choices loomed ahead like the ink on the pages, a labyrinth of morality where every turn could lead to doom or redemption. Help? Or harm? The question echoed like a clock ticking down to a final breath. As the shadows gathered, a breathtaking realization edged into his mind: he was not merely fighting for his life but also for those within the darkness. And with that, he looked back down at the Bible, searching for answers hidden in its depths. Could the very words that had captured him also set others free? The shadows thickened, and he knew he had no time left. The choice was his. Darkness or light? Truth or sanity? He took a deep breath, the weight of the choice ahead pressing against his chest. Could he bear to uncover whatever lay buried in those pages, knowing the risk? Or would he use whatever light remained to shield those still ensnared by shadows? The air crackled with tension as he turned the pages again, ready to brave the abyss that lay ahead. Would it be his salvation or his end? And what choice would echo across the vast depth of the void? As Jake plunged deeper into the pages, the shadows writhed like serpents eager for a feast. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and every word he stumbled upon seemed to hold a weight that threatened to crush him. The whispering of lost souls echoed louder now, layering his anxiety with a sickening dread. Help us! The voice grew clearer, a chorus of desperation mixing with the weight of the woman's laughter. He could almost see their faces, half-formed and etched in silent agony. It was a tide of grief crashing against his own rising fear, threatening to drown him in his indecision. Staring at the text, his eyes locked onto the phrase "the lost ones." A shiver ran down his spine. Those words felt intimate, personal. It was a clear reference to the souls trapped within those very shadows. With a tight grip, he tore his gaze away, refusing to let that knowledge root itself in his mind any further. "Stop!" he shouted, willing the shadows to retreat. But they just twisted and danced around him, responding to his panic with a frenzy of their own. He flicked the flashlight rapidly, a futile attempt to push back the encroaching darkness. It flickered ominously, and he could almost sense the gathering strength waiting to consume him whole. Then he found it a single line near the bottom of the page that felt like a lifeline. To uncover the truth is to embrace the fear of sacrifice. The words felt heavy, their implications suffocating. What was he sacrificing? A part of himself? Someone he loved? Panic clawed at his throat. Jake fought to focus, to make sense of the prophecy unfolding before him. "What do you want me to do?" he pleaded, his voice cracking. The shadows froze momentarily, as if weighing his earnestness. "You must choose." The woman's voice was a hiss, floating like poison through the air. "With knowledge comes chains." Her eyes glinted, and he felt their hold tighten around him. "Choose to save one or to see them all suffer. Your light will blind you to the truth if you are not willing to see." The sick sensation of dread pooled in his stomach. The ramifications of his choice haunted him like a shadow of doom. His decision might save some but ruin others. Did he have the strength to bear the weight of their fates? Around him, the whispers twisted, a chaotic crescendo of fear and despair that rose to a deafening roar. "Help us! Don't leave us! Who are you?" he shouted back, desperation pulsing through him like a living thing. The shadows momentarily dissipated, revealing distorted faces crying out, a melting mass of humanity caught in a web of anguish. "I am every choice you have made," the woman said, her tone shifting to something almost tender. "Every regret. Every unholy decision. You must face it to put an end to this." Her words hung in the air, as Jake grappled with the growing realization that the answer was buried deep within him. Every choice he made, every consequence, had led him to this moment. The light from the flashlight suddenly dimmed, flickering on the verge of dying. Panic surged, and he scrambled for another spark of illumination, desperate to stave off the enveloping dark. "No! I can't go back to the dark. Not now." He tightened his grip on the Bible, every fiber of his being screaming against the inevitability of the shadows. As the light flickered one last time before going out entirely, a feeling of utter isolation seeped into his bones. In that suffocating pitch black, he realized he not only had to make a choice, he needed to wield the very essence of that choice to light the way out. The silence bore down, stifling and heavy. Anguished cries echoed around him, urging him to action. In that desolation, clarity struck like lightning. Jake opened the Bible again, ready to embrace whatever haunted truth lay ahead, determined that he would not simply accept sacrifice but understand it, fight it. What lay ahead was unknown. A total reckoning awaited as shadows waited to snatch away all light, with Jake standing at the very edge of decision. And as the air crackled with potential, he couldn't help but wonder, would his choice ignite salvation or plunge him deeper into despair? The moment the flashlight died, darkness swirled around Jake like a living entity. Panic surged through him, thumping in his chest like a trapped bird. The echoes of the anguished souls wrapped around him, a cacophony of desperation that seeped into his bones. He clutched the Bible to his chest, as if its very presence could shield him from the oppressive void. The voices ebbed and flowed, each cry a reminder of the immense weight on his shoulders. "You must choose," echoed through the thick air. It was more than just a command, it felt like a sentence wrapped in agony. "Choose what?" he shouted into the abyss, but the only answer was silence, a chilling pause that made his heartbeat thunder in his ears. In the dark, time twisted, stretching his anxiety into an unbearable knot. Closing his eyes didn't help, the shadows felt sharper, more tangible without the harsh glow of his flashlight. He could almost feel them probing at him, testing him, eager to drag him down into their wailing depths. Yet, amidst the terror, a flicker of resolve sparked. He had to act. Raising the Bible high, he fought the creeping despair. "I will not be a prisoner of your choices." The words felt weak and insubstantial against the darkness, but he pushed forward. He could almost see the faintest outlines of the words within the book glimmering with a sepulchral light. As he read aloud, each syllable resonated against the walls of his mind, illuminating the twisted path of regret that brought him here. To uncover the truth is to embrace the fear of sacrifice. The shadows reacted violently, writhing and coiling around him like a storm ready to consume. Hints of faces emerged from within the darkness, their features shifting like smoke, each one marked by sorrow, trapped in a loop of despair. Jake's gut twisted at the sight. "Make your choice." The woman's voice pierced through the turmoil, her tone shifting from seduction to menace. "You can save them or condemn them." Jake's breath quickened. Faces twisted and contorted around him, angry and pleading. He recognized the hints of familiar expressions, the faces of friends, family, his choices embodied in haunting specters. "What if I save the wrong one?" he gasped. "Would saving one person siphon hope from another?" The walls of the room pressed closer, the air thickening to a choking haze. "You must decide, Jake. Time is running out." With pounding heart and trembling hands, Jake flipped through the tattered Bible, his mind racing. "What do I do? You're all so lost." Each scream echoed like a dagger in his mind, pulling him deeper into despair. Suddenly, a new thought struck him. What if the answer lay not in choosing sides but in embracing the collective pain? What if I refuse to choose? He shouted into the shadows, his voice crumbling with uncertainty but filled with a flicker of rebellion. For a moment, the darkness paused, the writhing shadows freezing in surprise. The whispers turned to a low murmur, curious and questioning. "Refusal brings consequence," the woman warned, her voice sharp. "You cannot linger in indecision." Jake stood resolute, though tears threatened to spill. "Then let them all be saved. I refuse to choose one suffering over another. They all deserve a chance." The world trembled at his proclamation. A vengeful wind howled through the pages of the Bible, flinging them open with a violent fervor. The air crackled, causing the shadows to sway. Uncertain, confused, light began to pierce the gloom, not from his flashlight, but from an unknown source within the pages itself. As the glow expanded, Jake could feel the warmth of hope, both terrifying and exhilarating. Just as it seemed the light would consume him, a deafening silence fell, an abyssal pause that screamed of foreboding. The very fabric of his reality trembled at the seams, and for a fleeting moment, he thought he could glimpse a future colored with salvation. But as hope flickered, he heard the whispers again, sharper now, puncturing his thoughts with dire warning. "You cannot save them all." And with that, a deeper terror loomed, as choices spiraled back to him in the form of shadows that threatened to darken that flicker of light. What would emerge next from this questioning void? A choice made or shattered hopes? Only the next heartbeat would tell. The shadows shuddered violently, recoiling as if stung by Jake's defiance. The light from the Bible pulsed with an eerie intensity, brightening the darkness in waves. But the moment it reached out, the shadows responded, stretching and squirming to envelop it. Intensity crackled in the air, like a storm ready to unleash its wrath. "Choose!" the woman screamed, her voice now a piercing shriek that echoed through the void. Each syllable carved through Jake's resolve, forcing him to confront the swirling mass of emotions, the fear, regret, confusion. The faces surrounding him twisted into grotesque masks of despair as they began to close in. "I can't. I want tea," he shouted, but the encircling darkness tightened its grip, suffocating his spirit. The shadows laughed deep, throaty chuckles that weaved their way into his thoughts. "Indecision is a choice in itself, Jake." He could feel the Bible slipping in his hands, the once comforting text now a source of torment. The words he had found so illuminating now hammered upon his mind like a relentless storm. "Let them all be saved," he cried out. The urgency in his voice betrayed his fear, a seated doubt taking root as he realized the sheer weight of his declaration. Could he do what he claimed? "The choice is not yours to make." The shadows reverberated around him, their voices merging into a cacophony that enveloped him. "You think saving them all is noble? It is folly." As Jake's determination wavered, the room began to swirl. The air thickened, and he found himself standing in a vast abyss of faces. Each one overlapped, merging and twisting as he recognized the familiar eyes, his friends, his family, each one a reminder of the pain he could not escape. He fell to his knees, clutching the Bible, forcing his mind to focus. "Guidance, please," Jake begged, desperation churning in his gut. He needed to break through the overwhelming noise that surrounded him. With shaking hands, he opened the pages, praying for an answer, any answer, but all that greeted him was a blinding light followed by a shadowed grip that pulled him deeper into his own despair. Suddenly, a jolt coursed through him. A cold certainty. What if it's not about saving? He murmured, the realization hitting him like a brick wall. What if it's about understanding the sacrifice? The shadows shifted, intrigued by his newfound insight. They stopped their advance, forming a circle around him. "Wise choice," they hissed, shadows swirling in a dance. "To understand is to truly know pain." "Enough!" Jake shouted, rising to his feet, an ember of newfound strength glowing within him. "The pain is not just mine to bear. I will embrace it all." The shadows recoiled, as if recoiling from an unseen force. The light from the Bible surged one last time, illuminating paths that twisted away into the darkness. Whispers morphed into screams of rage, confusion, terror, and yet, underneath it all, a single thread of hope flickered. But then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette more solid than the rest, a woman cloaked in darkness, her face hidden behind an intricate mask. "You may embrace it, but what if you're only feeding the cycle of sacrifice?" she asked, her voice dripping with venomous curiosity. Jake's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "Every choice you defy has a price, a balance to keep. Do you dare challenge fate?" Her hidden eyes glinted with a malevolent light. A shiver raced down his spine as the implications settled in. Could this path lead him to salvation, or would it unearth a fate worse than he could imagine? He stood there, caught between the light and dark, breath held tight in his chest, aware that this moment would change everything. What price was he willing to pay to see the faces of those he loved free from their torment? The decision loomed before him, dark and dizzying. The silence deepened, punctuated only by the rapid beating of his heart. Would he challenge fate, or accept the suffering of choice that bound him? The answer lay just within his reach, but the hidden truths could shatter all he believed. Would he find the courage to confront the temptress lurking in the shadows? Jake's breath stilled, his mind racing as he confronted the woman cloaked in darkness. Her words hung thick in the air, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. The shadows danced hungrily around him, their laughter echoing like mocking whispers. "What price?" he demanded, his voice more forced than he intended. He was done with the riddles. "What do you want from me?" Her masked face tilted slightly. "Your understanding comes at a cost, my dear Jake. It isn't simply a matter of grasping pain. It is the willingness to bear it." A chill crawled down his spine. The image of his loved ones flashed before his eyes, their faces twisted in agony. His heart ached, but he couldn't dwell on their suffering now. So he hesitated, feeling every second stretching like a taut string. "If I embrace this, the pain, the sacrifice, it will save them?" "Embrace it fully, and their torment becomes your own," she said, her voice a lilting melody of doom. "You will become the bearer of their grief. Imagine feeling it all, every bite of anguish and sorrow unleashed upon you." A flash of doubt crept through him. Could he truly handle such weight? Yet a deep longing arose within him, a flicker of determination guiding his thoughts. "I'd rather feel their pain than watch them suffer." The shadows convulsed, swarming like angry bees. "Fear not the weight of your choice, young man," they taunted, slipping closer to him, drawing nearer with a blackened hunger. "You believe you can withstand it. You believe you are special." Jake straightened, a thin thread of defiance supporting him amid the chaos. "I'm not special. I'm just willing." "Willingness is key," the woman mused, her tone thick with irony. "But can you truly pay the toll?" This is no game, no simple act of bravery. The sound of her voice felt like a blade. The decision hung heavy in the air, the weight pushing down on his shoulders like a shroud. Yet beneath that burden, something else flickered, a hope ignited not by his strength but by the love for those he held dear. "Then what must I do?" he asked, fear coating his voice but layered with resolve. "Tell me. Are you ready?" she whispered, stepping closer, the darkness swirling around her as if it were its own entity. "Are you prepared to break yourself for the sake of the ones you love?" In that moment, Jake felt the shadows surge. A sickening thrill wrapped around him, testing his limits, infiltrating the cracks in his heart. Before he could finish, the dim light of the Bible flared wildly, illuminating the demon masks twisting in horrid delight. The shadows closed in, a tangible mass ready to consume him whole. Then let the sacrifice begin. The Bible's light radiated like a flare, igniting the shadows and causing them to recoil. Jake shielded his eyes, feeling the heat of the confrontation blossom around him. But it wasn't just pain he felt, it was clarity amid chaos. I will not lose them to despair," he shouted, but these words felt feeble, nearly swallowed by the deafening chaos. The woman stepped even closer, a whisper drawing its way into Jake's mind. "You think you can just choose not to be consumed? Beware, dear heart. You may not like what you find within those depths." As the shadows encroached upon him, Jake squared his shoulders. Every inch of him trembled, the weight of fate pressing in. "Show me." And at that moment, the world spun, shadows blurring into a vortex, pulling him into darkness. The familiar faces whispered his name, their voices swallowed by an unseen void. As he fell, Jake realized he might discover truths beyond his grasp. But one thought anchored itself in his mind: what if confronting their pain unveiled a reality so twisted, so horrific, that he would despair rather than save, and all he could do was plunge deeper into the abyss of uncertainty, knowing that the real battle had only just begun. Would he survive it or become another lost soul in the cycle of sacrifice? The darkness enveloped Jake like a thick fog, smothering any remnants of light and hope. He was falling, spiraling into the depths of a void that seemed to stretch on forever. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the whispering voices of those he loved, their cries echoing in a haunting harmony that wrapped around his heart. Jake, it was his mother. Her voice filtered through the shadows, trembling with a mixture of fear and despair. "Please don't let it take you," as her plea washed over him, a surge of anguish coursed through his veins. This was their pain, boiling within him, and he grasped at it like a lifeline. He would not let those voices fade away. He could feel each slicing sorrow, every crack of his mother's heart clashing against his own. "Face it, Jake." A new voice roared, resonating far deeper than the rest. It was strong and fierce, his father. "You can't hide from what you must become. Embrace it." In an instant, the chaos around him shifted. The darkness twisted into shapes, becoming familiar silhouettes, their faces illuminated with tormented expressions. He could see his sister, her eyes wide with unshed tears, and his best friend, showing cracks of despair across his usually carefree demeanor. "Take it, take all of it," they chanted, as shadows clawed at Jake, trying to pull him under into their dark embrace. "No!" he shouted into the void, fighting against the encroaching shadows. "I will not abandon you. I will stand strong." With a sudden whirlwind of force, he was thrust into an alternate landscape, one that looked achingly familiar yet felt utterly distorted. A version of his childhood home loomed ahead, but it was cloaked in darkness and twisted roots that snaked through the walls like serpents. The windows were shattered, revealing only an unsettling emptiness. Here, the woman's voice echoed, unfurling through the shuddering air like a death knell. "This is where your journey begins." Jake's heart raced, pounding against his chest like a war drum. He was standing at the threshold of his worst nightmares. Would entering that house lead him to the answers or bind him closer to despair? As he stepped over the threshold, the air grew colder. Each breath frosted in front of him, swirling with memories he tried to bury. The imprint of laughter echoed through the rooms, twisting into faint cries that clawed at his sanity. Jake, the voice was small, almost lost, and it called to him from the heart of the house. He followed it, each step feeling heavier than the last, burdened by the collective weight of his loved one's fears. Finally, he found himself in the living room. Amidst scattered photographs and familiar furniture, he saw a mirror standing tall and ominous. In its depths, chaotic flashes swirled visions of a life steeped in his family's anguish. "What is this?" he asked, fear weaving through his words. The reflection splattered his vision with pain, each one a moment he couldn't bear to witness. But as he got closer, something shifted. A voice, a deep rumbling whisper emerged from the glass. "To break the cycle, you must unravel the truth hidden within." Jake's pulse quickened. What truth? He gazed at the mirror, and the scenes intensified the agony of loss, the cracks forming in his loved ones' hearts, all laid bare before him. Face it. The urgency in the voice clawed at him. What are you willing to sacrifice to save them? Terror gripped him tightly. There was too much to comprehend. Too much pain. He could feel every fiber of his being screaming against what could be revealed. Just when Jake thought he would shatter under the weight, a blinding light erupted from the mirror, pulling him closer. He was losing himself in its luminescence, teetering on the precipice of revelation, but as he struggled against the pull, a chilling realization settled into his bones. What if the truth was more horrifying than the pain itself? With the light engulfing him, he could do nothing but brace for impact, understanding that every choice he made would change everything forever. The last thought flashed in his mind as the darkness tried to consume him again. What if freeing them meant dooming himself to eternal anguish? Then everything exploded into blinding light, and Jake felt himself drowning in endless uncertainty. Each heartbeat echoed as the colors faded into shadow, leaving behind a question both profound and terrifying. What sacrifice was truly worth paying in the name of love? The light was blinding, overwhelming every thought in Jake's mind. He felt the tug of the mirror's pull, drawing him in closer, as if it were a portal to another world. His heart raced, each beat echoing like a war drum in the silence, while uncertainty wrapped around him like chains. When the brightness finally dimmed, he found himself standing in a long hallway, bathed in an eerie glow. The walls were lined with photographs, twisted moments in time captured in frames. The expressions on the faces were wrong, smiles twisted into grimaces, eyes filled with an unspeakable fear. His family's images flickered like dying fireflies, twisting into images of despair. Jake, a whisper floated in the air, soft yet insistent. It pulled at him, urging him forward down the hall. "Help us!" He stumbled toward the sound, adrenaline coursing through him, but with each step he felt a cold grip tightening around his heart. Memories flooded his mind, dark and heavy. He remembered family dinners, laughter echoed in hollow rooms, but now those memories felt tainted, the laughter replaced with a hollow, echoing sob. "Where are you?" he yelled, desperation spilling from his lips. The word bounced down the corridor, swallowed by the oppressive silence. At the end of the hall stood a door, ancient and sagging, as if it were holding back centuries of anguish. The whispers grew stronger, more urgent. "You have to see." He hesitated, panic swarming his thoughts. Behind that door lay the truth of family secrets best left hidden, of betrayals that could shatter everything he knew. But fear of what lay inside was outweighed by the need to find his loved ones. He pushed the door open. Inside was a room drenched in darkness, save for a single flickering light bulb swinging overhead. In the center stood a table laden with artifacts, broken toys, pieces of letters torn apart, and something wrapped in faded cloth that glinted ominously in the dim light. He approached, heart racing, as he recognized his family's treasure, a collection of memories steeped in pain. Just then, a loud crash echoed from somewhere behind him, followed by frantic whispers. "Jake!" It was his sister's voice, filled with terror. "You mustn't touch it." But it was too late. Compelled by an unseen force, his hands found the cloth and slowly peeled it back. As he did, the shadows around him twisted and writhed, seeming to come alive. Were they trying to warn him? What lay exposed was a locket, beautiful and ornate, shimmering with an unnatural glow. Suddenly, sharp pain shot through his hand, and a vision burst to life: his mother, pale and weary, crying over a grave. "No!" he gasped, stepping back as the vision swirled away, replaced by fractured glimpses of their lives, a dark pact, secrets, and a betrayal that led to a chain of heartache. Each image slammed into him like a fist, leaving him reeling. The ground trembled beneath his feet, and he felt an icy wind whip through the room. Shadows danced madly, and the whispers grew deafening. The house itself seemed to scream with unresolved grief. "Jake!" An echo of his mother's voice rang out amidst the chaos. "You have to wake up. Choose wisely." Her words pierced through the turmoil, cutting through the mounting terror. What did she mean? He was left with a choice that would ripple through time, reverberating into the futures of everyone he loved. Clenching his jaw, he diverted his gaze from the locket back to the door. The brightness from the hallway beckoned him, promising hope. But could it be that simple? Was escaping this fate all it took? The shadows weren't done yet. They screamed without mouths, clawed at him, demanding he make a decision. Standing at the precipice, caught between the past's haunting grip and the uncertain future, he clenched his fists, feeling pieces of his heart shatter. Could he really face it all? What was he truly sacrificing in his quest to save them? And in that moment, another realization hit him like a lightning bolt: if he chose to free them, what darkness would he unleash upon himself? The house trembled once more, and whispers sped to a crescendo. A crucial decision loomed heavy in the air. He could feel the weight of destiny about to shatter him. Jake knew he was trapped. But what terrified him the most was, would anyone he loved ever truly be free? As the shadows lurked closer, poised to swallow him whole, Jake made a desperate choice. Would he run back to what he knew, or plunge into the darkness that held his family's fate? In that moment, he took a breath, preparing to confront the terrible truth. What awaited him on the other side could either save them or damn them all. And then he stepped through the threshold, sealing his fate. Where would the truth lead him next? The moment Jake crossed the threshold, he felt a gravitational pull that threw him into a whirlwind of visions, memories layered with sorrow and shadows. They fought against him, clawing at his chest, tightening their icy grip around his heart. The room around him twisted, and suddenly, he was surrounded by ethereal images of his family, each cradled in their own agony, frozen in moments that screamed for salvation. "Jake!" his sister cried, her voice echoing through the cacophony of suffering. "You have to do something. Stop this!" he yelled, his voice rising above the chaos. Just tell me. What do you want me to do?" With that question suspended in the air, a radiant light broke through the dark haze. In its glow, the faces of his family twisted into forms of anguish, each one beckoning him forward. Their eyes, wide and pleading, had become mirrors reflecting his turmoil. Each flicker of light revealed the depth of their suffering, a tapestry of choices woven from love and pain. "Embrace the truth," a voice echoed, powerful and filled with promise. It was his mother, her spirit guiding him. "Face the shadow to set us free." He could feel the raw energy crackling through the air, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. Did he dare to face the truths hidden in the locket? What if it meant unraveling everything he knew about his family? Gathering his courage, Jake approached the shimmering locket. The shadows reacted to his decision, swirling around him like vortexes of despair, each whisper growing into a frenzied chorus filled with warnings. But he stood resolute. The fear of the hidden past was nothing compared to the terror of watching his loved ones remain trapped. "Sacrifice and salvation go hand in hand," the woman from the shadows said, her voice laced with intrigue. "Are you ready to bear the burden of their pain?" He nodded firmly. "Yes. I will take it all." With a deep breath, he opened the locket, unleashing a surge of light so brilliant it pierced the shadows that surrounded him. Instantly, Images erupted into view, moments of his family's lives intertwined with joy and sorrow, laughter shadowed by loss. Each flicker stung, illuminating the choices that had brought them all to this terrible place. That he saw visions of his parents making decisions that had bound them in a dark pact. Betrayals intermingled with their love, choices that healed but also hurt. Jake staggered back, grasping at the truth that flowed through him like a fever. "Is this what I must bear?" he cried, tears streaming down his face. "I can't let this continue." As if responding to his anguish, the shadows surged forward, but they hesitated their grasp, caught in the brilliance emanating from the locket. "You have the power to rewrite this tale," a whisper seeped through, a taunt, a dare. Jake's will surged. "Then I will." At that very moment, he focused on the memories swirling around him, forging them into new choices. He called upon orbs of light, filling the air with warmth and resolve. "I embrace the pain. I will break this cycle." The cacophony swirled into a crescendo as light radiated from the locket, enveloping him and his family's memories in a dazzling glow. The shadows writhed and howled, seeking to reclaim their hold, but with each spark of warmth, they hissed and retreated, and suddenly, clarity struck. Instead of sacrificing one to save another, he realized he must weave their stories together, mending the wounds of the past, healing each scar with love. "You are not just pain. You are love, hope, laughter, and life." He poured his heart into the words, crafting a tapestry woven from compassion. The energy crackled around him, and the locket pulsed vibrantly in response. Light blazed, pouring out from him, wrapping around the shadows. The desperate faces of his family began to transform, their agonized expressions softening into ones of relief. "Together, we heal," Jake shouted, channeling his love into the locket, lighting it with the warmth of every cherished memory. "Together, we can break free." As the light erupted, the shadows disintegrated, consumed by the brilliance that surged forth. The weight of despair lifted, revealing a clear path ahead. With the last remnants of darkness slowly dissipating, his family materialized beside him whole and free. Relief washed over him, leaving a tender ache in its wake. "What have you done?" his mother whispered, filled with awe. "I've broken the cycle," he replied, tears cascading down his cheeks. "We are free." Yet all too soon, he realized that the shadows had not vanished entirely. They had transformed, becoming specters of the past that held lessons, not chains. Their memories shimmered like starlight, full of truths once buried. "Thank you," his sister whispered, her voice vibrant with hope. Looking at each of their faces, Jake felt a weight lift. He had embraced the truth and chosen love over fear. The journey had changed him forever, but more importantly, it had freed his family from their own shadows. As dawn broke through the remnants of the night, reflecting soft hues of orange and pink across the horizon, Jake stood hand in hand with his family, ready to face the world anew. "Together," he murmured, knowing they were not merely survivors of anguish but warriors of their own narrative. Their story would shine through the darkness, illuminating the encounters yet to come, and with that dawning light, they walked forward, limitless and united in their spirits. Now, my friends, the story closes and begins again. But you need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive tales that will captivate your heart. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure our bond strengthens. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about what comes next. Let us keep this community alive, and don't wait even one more second to share this incredible conclusion with at least 5 friends who absolutely need this light in their lives. Your support matters, and true fans know the importance of being part of this journey together. Let us keep shining bright.